Okay, in this quick video, I'm going to take a look at doing some computations for effective rent. We're going to look at three different examples, three different types of leases. They each have a discount rate of 10%, so that would have to be given to you. And we're going to start with looking at a gross lease, so up here, and this is a lease that starts at $10.27 a square foot, and it's going to grow by 25 cents per square foot per year. So you can see that's happening in year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5. It's getting a quarter per square foot bigger than the previous year. The expenses are starting off at $5 and they're growing by 3% per year. So you can see that's what's going on with this formula. I'm growing the previous cell or the previous year by 3% and then just rounding it to the nearest penny. So the net rent is going to be the difference between those two. I'm going to subtract the expenses from the base rent, and I get the net rent, and that is the first step in figuring out the effective rent. I get the net rent for each of the 5 years, and then I'm going to find the NPV of those 5 net rent years. So you can see here I'm using the NPV formula. I'm highlighting 10% as the discount rate, and then I highlight those 5 years, and I get, in this case, a number $20.64. And then the last step is to use the payment function. And I use the payment function to highlight all the appropriate things. So the first argument is the rate, and that's given up above in cell C1. That's the 10%. And then we've got the number of periods. That's 5. This is a 5-year lease, so it's going to be 5. The present value is the $20.64 that we just computed, the NPV. And there's no future value. The only other thing I want to point out here is that I put a negative sign at the front of the formula to make the answer or the result come up as a positive number. So in this case, $5.45 is an effective rate, an effective rent, maybe I should say, and that's a per year number and a per square foot number as well. So that's a gross lease. Now let's look at a base year stop. Again, this has a quarter per square foot per year increase. So we're starting off at $10 a square foot here, and we're growing that by 25 cents a year. Ooh, I didn't put a formula in there, but you can see that it's growing by 25 cents a square foot. Next thing, the expenses are happening just like they did in the previous example, where it starts off at $5 and it's growing by 3% per year. So it starts off at $5 and it's growing over time. The last thing that we got for this particular kind of lease, the base year stop, is to do an expense recovery. And if you recall, the expense recovery for a base year stop means anything over the base year we're going to recoup. Any expenses over the base year stop we're going to get back. So the base year stop in this example is $5. So in year 2, when the expenses are $5.15, we're going to get the difference between the base year stop and the $5.15, and that's showing up in this formula. And I'm subtracting, so I'm subtracting the subtracting the $5 from the $5.15. And notice that I have the dollar sign, the absolute cell reference for B18, which is the base year. So when I go to future years, my formula is always going to be looking back, right here. My formula is always going to be looking back to the base year stop, right? Because that's the amount that we're getting recouped. Anything basically over $5 we get recouped. So you can see here in year 2, our expenses are $5.15. We're getting 15 cents a square foot in expense recoveries. In year 3, our expenses are $5.30. We're getting 30 cents a square foot in expense recoveries. In year 5, the expenses are $5.62. We're getting 62 cents a square foot in expense recoveries. All right. So that shouldn't be anything special there. No big deal. The net rents are going to be the base rent plus any expense recoveries less the expenses, and that's what this formula is doing here. And we're netting $5. And if you look here, we're growing our net rents by a quarter per square foot per year because our base rent's growing by a quarter, and then any increases in expenses are getting recovered or recouped through the expense recovery. So from there on, everything else is the same. We get the NPV using the 10% discount rate in those 5 years of net rents. And then I use the payment function and stick a negative sign in front of it, do the same stuff that we did before, and I get an effective rent per year per square foot of $5.45. Last thing is a triple net lease where you're getting all of the expenses recovered, And again, we've got a base rent that starts off at $5.50 here. It's growing by a quarter per square foot per year. So you can see that row there. The expenses are down here. Same story that we've done all this time so far is $5 plus $3, 3% per year in expense increases. And then the expense recovery is going to be 100% of the expenses. So our net is going to be the base rent plus the expense recovery minus the expenses. In this case, you can see the formula there. And the net rent is $5.50 per square foot. And again, it grows by a quarter per year. The NPV is the same as it's always been. I highlight the discount rate and then highlight the net rents. And the last step is to find the payments that equates that NPV to 5-year payment at a 10% discount rate. So I use the payment function and I get $5.95 per square foot per year. That's the effective rent. So it's a very straightforward process. Highlight or outline the base rents, outline your expense recoveries, take away your expenses, you're ending up with a net rent. So we got however many years your lease term is. If it was a 7-year lease, we'd have 7 years of net rents. And by the way, if we had 7 years, our net rent would be computed based on 7 years. That would be the number of periods, right? This thing right here, the number of periods would be 7. Our NPV would be bigger, and we would have a per square foot per year number. So that is effective rents. Relatively straightforward. You should practice a few times. There's some examples in the book. I'll try to maybe make a PDF of that page so you can look at that and do a little practice. I guarantee you there's going to be a question on the exam that's related to effective rent. So study so you can get that problem done and get some easy points. So I'll see you later.